So most of my homestead is north-facing slope. It is reasonably heavily wooded and also very steep. This is the grade that I'm walking down. It's not quite 45 degrees where I am now, but it gets there eventually and then a bit steeper. So what can you do with a north-facing slope? Not much. A north-facing slope is not ideal for growing food. You want to have a south-facing slope because then you have sunshine, at least here in the northern hemisphere. And then if the slope is really steep and covered in trees like this, well, at least you could use it for lumber, right? Kind of. The trouble with growing, with harvesting lumber down here is that if I chop down a tree, I then have to pull it up a steep slope. As you can see, previous occupants haven't really bothered to do that. There's just too much difficulty in getting the stuff up after you get it down. So what can you use it for? If I build an outbuilding or a guest house, then they're going to have a lot of stairs. It's kind of difficult to get up and down. And that means that most of what is down here is perfect, beautiful wilderness with the occasional pieces of trash that have gotten dumped down there. Those I intend to remove. But beyond that, what do you do with a north-facing slope? I love having the woodland. I love being able to see the trees, and you can see this feathering of redbuds, these slightly pink blossoms that are out there in the middle of the trees. And there are nuts here that I could collect as a harvestable thing from the oak trees and also from the hickories. And then there's possible, down the road, I could harvest some maple syrup from the maple trees. They're a bit young yet, but they're going to get older. And I'm planning to collect a little bit of natural stone. It's one of the reasons I'm down here in the first place today. But this challenge of how do you use a north-facing slope has got me thinking about an idea from Taoism. And that is the parable of the uncarved block, or of the gnarled tree. And you imagine a tree that's really twisted and doesn't really throw a lot of shade, but it's twisted, so you can't really cut it up for boards. What do you do with a tree like that? Well, it's not useful for anything. It doesn't have any teleological purpose. Teleological meaning an end, something that you could. What is it useful for? If you can answer that question and say for something else, then it has a teleological end. What do you want money for? You want it so that you can buy stuff. You don't want money for its own sake. But with a gnarled old tree, there is still value in it. And that value is to enjoy it as a tree. Not for what it can do for you, but for what it is. I still intend to try to find uses for this back patch. I think there are uses, and I'm enjoying imagining them. One thing I'm imagining is putting up a series of tree houses, kind of like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. But, that's a project for much later down the road, after my kids are old enough to not break their necks. In the meantime, mostly what I'm going to use this for, probably, is just for the wilderness, just as the uncarved block. Good for its own sake, for now. And I'm going to intensely cultivate the front yard, because that's the flat spot that's south-facing and reasonably easy to work with. There's a related idea in the work of Immanuel Kant. His second categorical imperative, I think, is the most profound thing that's ever come out of ethics. He said, never treat a person as a means merely. When you treat a person as a means, you're treating them as a means to an end. You're treating them in that teleological way. And if you treat somebody teleologically, we do this all the time, and we can't avoid it, and it's not always inappropriate. When you go through the checkout line at the grocery store, you're treating the checkout person as a means to get your groceries checked out and to make the transaction so that you can go on your way and go home. And it's easy to feel frustration if they upset that process and make it slow or training somebody, that kind of thing. But they have value too, that person. That person has value. So even if you're treating someone as a means, even if someone's helping you to accomplish one of your goals, it's important to recognize that they have value in and of themselves. and to see that. And it makes you behave just a little bit differently. I mean, you still go through the checkout line, you still ask them to take your credit card, and you still go through and do the process the same as usual, but you see them differently, and they can tell. And you might talk to them and ask them about their day and mean it. And if someone's having a hard time, you can be patient a little bit because they matter too, not just your goals. With the whole uncarved block thing, the backyard, even if it's not accomplishing anything for me, still is valuable. And it's a little bit harder for me to remember sometimes that I am still valuable, even if I'm not accomplishing all the things I would like to be accomplishing. I can sometimes treat myself as a means merely, where what I am and the source of my value are the things that I accomplish on my to-do list, like the fence that hasn't been built yet to keep the deer out. They haven't attacked yet, but I easily fall into to-do list mode, and I imagine some of you do too. It is a really difficult thing also when you're talking about your sense of personal mission. One thing that struck me with a little bit of force when I was teaching at Monticello College was this idea of personal mission. I've always loved the idea that we are sent on Earth, that everybody who is born has a calling, has something that they are uniquely suited to do, a personal mission, and that you need to find work that is meaningful so that you can, work and strive with all your heart, might, mind, and strength for something truly valuable. And I think that there is a lot of value in that still, but I think there's also a danger. And here's the danger. If you are questing for your personal mission and wondering what it is that you're supposed to be doing in this world, it is often the case that what you're really asking is, what is the end, the goal, that will provide me with value if I serve it? So that what is the end for which I am a mere means? What is the goal or calling or dream or destiny that is so radically important that I can give my entire life to it and become nothing more than a means to its fulfillment? Naturally, it's easy to go wrong in the other direction, where you're selfishly interested only in the present moment and in yourself. But you can go wrong in the other direction too. Like all things, yin and yang, man. Right time, right place. Never treat yourself as a means, merely. Get things done. Work. Find a calling. Do things that matter. But don't treat yourself merely as a means to its accomplishment, because you matter. Now I just need to remember that myself. If you enjoyed this video or got anything valuable out of it, please hit the like button and subscribe below. And if it was really valuable to you, then please share it with a friend. I look forward to talking to you next time.